what happened with Mike Tyson? And just to be clear, I don't follow boxing, so I have no idea what's happened.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. Mike Tyson got old. Okay. I mean, that's basically the sum of it.
He's been around for literally decades.
He has. The key takeaway is if you're young, don't get old. It's not fun. Like I don't know if it's happened to you yet, Carl, but I have to wear these sodding reading glasses now.
No, my eyes are still really good, actually.
Well, I thought it wasn't going to happen to me, and you always hear it happens at some point in your early 40s. Just one morning you wake up and all of a sudden you can't read anything, and it actually happened. It's just out of the blue. It just happens. Age just happens at some point. So it will happen to you at some point.
No, I don't doubt. I mean, it's happening to my beard, but luckily I can still read things.
Yeah, there is that. But I mean, nevertheless, it was an interesting fight because Tyson was an absolute beast back in his day. Let's play a bit of this in the background while we're talking. But this is just some highlights from. Tyson, there we go. He was an animal. He just used to charge at people. Just didn't stop. Kept hitting.
Yeah. I mean, when I was young, Mike Tyson was basically a sort of synonym for a terrifying person.
Yeah.
Right. Like Mike Tyson himself was obviously a psycho who enjoyed punching the crap out of people.
Yeah, they made a documentary about this fight on Netflix and stuck it up as well. And he's like walking down his home street and he bumps into some old lady and she says, "Oh yeah, you mugged me once when you were like 8 or something like that."
Like, yeah, I can believe it. Yeah.
He also has a taste for ears.
He does. He was doing this thing in the fight where he kept on biting his glove, and afterwards they asked him, "What's with you biting your glove all the time?" And he just says, "Oh, I've got a biting fixation," which I'm sure you know that he took off Evander Holyfield's ear at one point. Yeah, but yeah, this guy, I mean, he was just brutal.
Yeah,
I mean, look at
He could also dodge many hits.
Yeah, I mean,
he was really fast.
I mean, he just doesn't have a neck, so he can really take a punch. But he's got this. I mean, he's big, but he's kind of compact as well. So he's got this kind of nice compact style where he's kind of difficult to hit, and he can take a hit anyway. He can move, and he can just knock you down as well. I mean, what an.
Oh, was that Frank Bruno at the end there?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
See, I remember all these in the '90s and just being like, okay,
yeah.
Like, you know, Mike Tyson just seems to have an air of kind of evil about him.
Yeah, an aura of danger.
Yeah, an aura of danger, absolutely.
So he was up against this other guy. So let's have a look at the other guy in his prime. So this is Jake Paul.
Right.
There we go. So
not sure this is him in his prime. This is him as like a teenager or like 20.
Well, I suppose prime in influence maybe, but you know, he's one of the Paul brothers. You know, we covered his brother not so long ago, as Stelios was just reminding me, because his brother seems to be married to this Turbo Tart or whatever it is.
Right. Okay.
Dylan Dennis was calling her out and all that kind of stuff. But you know, they're basically.
Oh, that was him, was it?
Yeah, he was a Disney Kids star or something like that.
Right.
Big YouTuber. I think we kind of missed him. I think this is more of a Zoomer thing than a
I have to say, all of this thankfully passed me by.
Also, Harry Connor did something about it, and you were on with him.
Right. Okay.
I don't blame you.
Checked out.
Yeah, no, it's not that. I find these people very forgettable.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look, I'm, like TikTok influencer number 3,272.
Yes.
I'm just a blonde white guy from California. So, yeah, okay.
I mean, he has kind of done well for himself.
Yeah, good for them. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, he's made a lot of money. And I am being kind of unfair. The man can box. He can box.
Right.
A lot of people have sort of called him out as a sort of fake boxer and stuff. And yes, it is true. If you put Jake Paul in his prime now up against Mike Tyson in his prime, it would be carnage everywhere. In fact, if you put Jake Paul up against any of the heavyweight champs, including Bruno, in their prime, you know, he would get destroyed. But I mean, we are talking about the absolute pinnacle level. I mean,
we're not living in that world anymore.
Yeah, like the poet of boxing.
Well, I'm just saying that at the intermediate levels, he's a solid boxer. I mean, he can box.
I'm talking about Mike Tyson.
Oh no, Mike Tyson
was gold back in
the Shakespeare of boxing.
Yeah.
I mean, he well, I don't know if I'd say Shakespeare, but but yes, he is well up. Anyway, so they had an event. There we go. So we had an event.
So, quick question: Mike Tyson, as I understand it, is like 58 years old.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why is he still doing this?
Well, I mean, he hadn't for years. I mean, he'd basically given up boxing. I think he did one event fight maybe 10 years ago or something like that. Right. He does a couple of these event things every now and again, but I mean, basically he'd let himself go. He was no longer in the game. And for whatever reason, he decided, well, I suppose he had 10 million reasons to get back in the game, but he got offered this and, decided to go for it. But, you know,
was it a comeback? Something like a comeback? Not as dramatic as Mickey Rourke?
Not really. It was supposed to be a proper fight, not an exhibition fight, but it's probably closer to that. I mean, it was just a weird, silly thing that, you know, sort of happened. But I found it fascinating for several reasons. I mean, the first thing is it was on Netflix, which I thought was interesting.
Allegedly. I heard that the buffering wasn't.
No,
there was.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, there was a bit of that. But it was on Netflix, which was interesting. That's a change. That's something we haven't seen before, going on a streaming platform, and they made full use of that. They put like the Karate Kid and the Cobra Kai guy in the audience so that they could cut to them and say, oh, they're watching it. Oh, and by the way, they got a new season coming up on that. They had these Squid Game guys lined up in there. So they were sort of making full use of it. And I just thought it was really interesting that we've moved to the era where streaming is the predominant platform now. It's the only platform that can get something like this up and running. That said, you're right to talk about the buffering. I didn't actually watch it live because it was on like 4 a.m. UK time, so I just got up at 7 and watched it with a delay. I mean, when you watched it with a delay, it was fine, so you didn't see this. But the people who did stay up late and watched it, there was constant buffering and lagging and all that kind of stuff. It was a bit bad. There was only one bit of it that didn't stutter and buffer, and that was when Mike Tyson showed us all his arse. He gave a short interview to someone.
Why did this happen?
Well, he's in his changing room. He's got his box on, but nothing else at that point. He turns around and walks away, and we all got to see Mike Tyson's 60-year-old arse across the laundry room. That was the only bit apparently that didn't suffer.
Yeah, but it's
buffering.
like watching sumo fighting. So
how do you get there, Stelios?
You constantly see men's asses in sumo fighting.
Oh, I see. Okay, yes.
It's like they wear something that it's like they have been wedging.
Yes, that's true. Yes, I'll give you that. What else I found interesting? It was in Austin, not New York.
Yep.
Austin is kind of seamlessly transitioning into the unofficial capital of the US. I mean, I know it's Washington DC. I mean, yeah, I get that.
Sure, but New York is the sort of first city.
Yeah, it did. New York had been the first city, and it looks like Austin is now the new first city.
Right.
And it was between a Boomer legend, Mike Tyson, and a Zuma legend. Because those are the guys that have the necessary audience pull to make this work on a platform.
Mike Tyson's actually Gen X, but
is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that.
Not a boomer.
No. That ruins the whole theme.
The boomers are all 65.
Somehow with Dan, the boomers are the evil ones, and you always have to make it about boomers.
Well, I'm a Gen Xer, so Gen Xers are good.
Okay.
Right. So I was going to say that name an occasion where a Zoomer had beat a boomer at anything ever. It never happens. But it makes sense now that I know he's not actually a boomer. Boomers are undefeated.
The boomer. Like, come on, 65 plus, you'd have to be a boomer. Like, there's no way. But I mean, Mike Tyson seems to be in incredible shape for a man of his age.
Yeah, I'll go back to the main title card. That's a bit more flattering than just staring at his ass on the screen the whole time. I think what was happening here is all of the old guys wanted to believe that Tyson could win because none of us want to admit that we're old and we can't do what we used to be able to do. And I tell you, put it this way, right? So you and I, Carl, the same age, and we're pretty much halfway between these two guys.
Yeah.
If you had to fight one of them...
Yeah, I'd fight Jake Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think I'd fight Mike Tyson even at 58?
No way.
No, of course not. He'd destroy me.
I mean, put it this way. If Jake Paul came to me and said, I'll give you $10 million to fight me, I know I'd lose, but I'd be like, yeah, I'm up for that.
I don't think Jake Paul would literally eat parts of me during the fight, whereas Mike Tyson would kill me and eat me.
Yes, if Mike Tyson offered me $10 million to fight him, I'd be like, no. Good,
again, it's this, like you said, the sense of danger that surrounds Mike Tyson, even now. Like, I like there's something about this guy that's quite scary.
Yeah, but do you deserve to have an ear if you lose?
Well, yes.
I mean, an issue of dessert.
I'd fight Jake Paul instead.
I would fight Jake Paul for 10 million because even though I know I'd lose, I'd get the 10 million. I wouldn't fight Mike Tyson for any amount of money because I'd probably wheeled around like a vegetable for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even though he's 58, I mean, Jesus Christ, still.
But before we get into the main fight, let's recap the rest of what happened. So there's 4 fights. The first one was between Goyat, who I think is a Bollywood guy, and Nunes, who is a Brazilian YouTuber. Completely forgettable fight. I suppose it helped build international audience. I can't remember what happened in it. I think this was a fight where one of them kept on leaving their mouth open, which you never want to do as a boxer, because if you get caught with the right hook when you've got your mouth open, best case scenario, you go to sleep. Worst case scenario, you watch your jaw spin off into the crowd somewhere. So
then you have to go to the dentist.
Yeah. So I think one of them won on points at the end, and I think I remember agreeing with it, but I can't remember who. Whatever. Anyway, next fight. Play this with the sound off in the background. So the next fight was Barrios versus Ramos. They were both Mexicans, but one of them kind of identified as an Aztec for some.
One of them was an illegal.
Well, one of them,
your green card.
The one in the pink shorts, he kind of identified as an Aztec, and he came out wearing all the.
Yeah. He does
Aztec.
look quite like Aztec-ish.
Yeah. He was leaning into that. Now the Aztec, well, you can see it here actually. The Aztec was winning the fight quite handily early on. I think that's the third round where he knocks down the other guy, and it looked like he was cruising to an easy win, and he was either going to get a win on points or he was going to knock the other guy down and he wouldn't get up. And so you were kind of thinking, oh, this is boring. It got really interesting.
He got visited by the spirit of Cortez.
Well, you got
who you are.
Visited by the spirit of Mexican lawnmowers or whatever it was, because in the 6th round, Ramos knocked down the Mexican, knocked down the Aztec, right. And from that point on, it was a great fight. I mean, really fiery, and actually by the end of it, I simply couldn't tell who had won. Right. And I thought, I'll just go with whatever the judges say, and the judges called it a draw, and that was the right decision. So that was the second best fight of the night, quite entertaining in the end. Right, then we've got, and again, play this in the background, no sound. Then we had 2 women fighting. It was this Taylor, the Irish girl with no neck. I mean, literally, she basically got a straight line from the bottom of her ears to where her shoulders join on. And this plucky little Puerto Rican girl who's quite dinky but has got a bit of a spirit. Now, normally, I would not have any interest whatsoever in women's boxing. You know, it would be like watching men cheerleading. In fact, I've here we go. So this was the cheerleading that was happening. Can you imagine if that was done by a bunch of men? You know, you just wouldn't be interested. You might respect the commitment, the skill, the dedication, and the training, but you'd be like, yeah, what's going on here? I'm not watching men.
Cameraman's got clocked.
Yeah, he did. But anyway, so 2 women's boxing, and actually, it turned out to be the fight of the night. It was an amazing fight. There's no question, but this fight was 10 times better than the Mexican versus the Aztec, which itself was about 10 times better than the Tyson-Jake Paul fight.
Oh, right, okay.
And it was billed as controversial because last time round, these two had fought before, and the Irish girl with the thick neck, she won last time on points. And so there'd been a lot of controversy around that win, right? And this one, even more controversial. And the reason for that was because of basically all the headbutting. Oh. So the way that the Irish girl fights is she kind of, I mean, she's fairly short. She kind of has this style where she kind of leans into it. So she's always got her head going forward. And when she lunges, she kind of goes with her head first. And so she's always headbutting people. And what happened is she opened up this massive gash. I mean, so basically that part of the eye just on the other girl just came away. So this whole flap of skin was just sort of hanging open, which is a bit dodgy when, you know, you can get hit again there at any time and really open up the face. She had blood streaming into her eyes, so she could hardly... In fact, has this happened at this point? Can you see it? Oh, no, you can't see it yet. Oh, that's the other one anyway. But yeah, the ref actually had to take a point off the Irish girl at one point because of this behaviour. He actually had to stop her at one point and say this behaviour has got to change, but it's just her style, it's how she fights. I don't think it is intentional. There you go. She's seeing the gash for the first time. It's just how she. So it's not intentional, but it's a style.
Well, you're
that
punching people in the face, so these things happen.
Yeah, but I mean, opening up a wound. It all comes down to is this a fight or a sport? Right. Now, if it's a fight, fair enough, do whatever. But it's kind of supposed to be a support.
Right. Yeah.
You gonna?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that I saw a lot of people being really crazy about the lass over there, the blonde one. It was full of posts about her.
You bring it back to the important stuff, Stelios. Good man. But
focusing.
Yes. No, this was a absolute great fight. The later rounds were a total slugfest because they both knew later on that it could go either way, and so they were just hammering each other again. Total war, amazing fight. The plucky little Puerto Rican, she threw more punches, she landed more punches, she got more power punches in, she had a higher percentage of punches. But in the end, the judges scored it 95-94 in favour of the Irish girl. Now, when that happened, the audience erupted in boos. I was at home booing at the screen. I come back to this thing where is it a fight or a sport? Taylor won the fight, but I think that the sporting effort was won by the plucky little Puerto Rican. So Serrano's the plucky little one, her trainer was absolutely apoplectic at the end of the fight, ranting and raving. I don't blame him in the slightest. So very controversial, and I think the comments on this one are going to be controversial as well, because I guarantee I'm going to get a whole bunch of people in the comments saying you're blind if you think that Serrano won. Obviously it was Taylor, and then we're going to get a whole nother bunch of people coming under them and say, no, you're blind if you think that Taylor won. I'm not going to go so far as to say that it was stolen, because it was a great fight, so you can't... It being a great fight and it being stolen is incompatible, but it was close, and I would have given it to the plucky little Puerto Rican, not the Irish.
Yeah, that's great, but I'm here to watch Mike Tyson.
Yes! Well, I have to praise this, because it was so much better than what we actually we're all there for. So yes, fine. Let's come on to the bit. I'd just say I call it. I mean, I was saying in advance that if Tyson wins, it's because he won fast and early.
This makes sense.
But isn't this just generally how Tyson fought his entire boxing career?
Yes. Well, I mean, Tyson could win later on as well. I mean, he had enormous stamina as well. But it's a 27-year-old versus a 58-year-old. Paul is slightly bigger, slightly better reach, and he has trained. He is a decent boxer. Bo said the same thing. Basically everybody said this, is that Mike needs a widowmaker early on. We all knew that this was the case, and here we go. We can play some in the background. It was obvious that Jake Paul knew this as well, and so the early rounds was basically Jake Paul running away.
Yeah, just wearing Tyson out, right?
Yeah.
So he could get tired.
Yes. Yeah. It wasn't quite as bad as that scene in Monty Python and the Holy Grail where the two gladiators come out and the little guy just runs around in circles until the other guy collapses from a heart attack. It wasn't quite that bad, but it was kind of that. I mean, Paul knew what Tyson's strengths were, and so he just danced around, put in the occasional shot from distance. Tyson was always having to walk forward, always having to keep going forwards. It was very frustrating to watch. And by round 3, Tyson, he was getting tired, and you could see it. And only in the later rounds did Paul want to have a proper boxing match, which is a bit shame. Now I can't.
Well, sensible tactics from Paul.
Well, I can't really blame him. I mean, if I was going to get in a ring with Tyson,
that's how
I would totally do the same thing.
Yeah,
I'd be keeping my distance early on, definitely. And from the rest of the match, Paul dominated. He was throwing more punches, he was landing more punches. Tyson did get some good punches in. Paul got some good punches in, and all credit to Tyson. Even at that age, he can still really take a punch. But Paul had it. As soon as Tyson got tired, you could. I mean, Samson, click that again, so we can get a bit more of the thing. I can't remember which round that this is, but you can kind of see from Tyson's foot. I mean, you can tell a lot from a fighter's footwork, and if you look at Paul, he is he's kind of dancing around, he's energetic. He's got that sort of spring in his step, whereas Tyson is plodding. He's an old man plodding through. Tyson just couldn't do it from an energy point of view. Now, near the end of the fight, we got this. So this is still in the fight, but it's the last sort of 20, 30 seconds of the match. Paul kind of stops in the fight and he bows to Tyson like that. Now, I kind of wanted to see a bit of the old Mike because Mike had
I wouldn't trust it.
Mike had a window of opportunity to lunge forward and absolutely belt him when he did that. Young
Mike Tyson may well have done that too.
Oh yeah. Well, you wouldn't be in a position.
But there has to be a spirit of fair play.
Yeah, but
I mean, if I played against either of them, I wouldn't be fair.
Yeah, I mean the old
Mike
Tyson, you would not get an opportunity to do that. You'd be
like the old Mike Tyson and the young Mike Tyson. Like he just comes across as like you said, a very dangerous person.
Yes,
that you don't expect a spirit of fair play from.
Yes,
and his career bears that out. So it's just like
yeah. So it was a bit of a damp squib in the end. However. Right, I do think that this was actually a significant fight, and it's more for the meta message that it sends than anything else. I think it's a wake-up call to old men that age is a real thing,
right?
Because it's. I mean, we're only halfway to where Tyson is at the moment, but it's not like you get a letter one day and it says you're old. I mean, nobody rings a bell. There's not some event. It's not announced. You just get a little bit slower every day, and you don't really notice it. But the thing is, in your head, you're still a young man.
Yes.
And I think what this fight did is it reminded old men that age is real. And I think a lot of old men have watched this, and they're going to start thinking seriously now about handing off some of their responsibility to younger men. Especially boomers.
I heard a lot of people saying this was rigged.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it was rigged.
They were putting around training footage of Tyson, again, from like this year, unbelievably aggressively training and thinking, okay, well, has he lost that much speed?
The problem is when you're doing clips of training footage, that can be when he's fresh.
Sure.
And, it might not sound like much, 2 rounds in, 2 rounds of 2 minutes, but I mean, anyone who's ever done boxing has known if you go around, if you can do a couple of rounds in a boxing ring, you're a real man. It is absolutely exhausting. I mean, boxing is. I mean, I've done a whole bunch of martial arts. I rate boxing very highly because it is so immediate. So it's just there straight away. But also the training is. I mean, you're just absolutely pouring the sweat when you train for this stuff. So it's very easy to show a clip of training where he's like. Got it, because that is like his first 30 seconds or something. Sure. I mean, you try doing that after like 10 minutes or something. That's what's going on. But I mean, we live in a world where the boomers, they still control everything, and they only retire when they absolutely have to. They cling on to everything. I mean, especially in politics, this is a generation that simply doesn't let go. And maybe a good number of them watch this fight and they realise that maybe the final bell has rung for the boomer generation, that it is time to hang up the gloves of whatever it is that they're in, including politics, and hand it over. Now, obviously, our generation, Gen X, are going to get skipped over. I think our generation...
I don't know, we're kind of taking over at the moment.
Yeah, we might have a brief window, by virtue of the fact that we're the only ones there at the moment. But
Elon Musk and the sort of Trump administration... we're quite well represented in that, so that's good.
We're holding out, but I mean, maybe it's time for the millennials and the Zoomers like Paul to get a shot.
I can controversial see why the Zoomers are holding on there like, oh, look at him. It's like, yeah.
But no, age is real, and let's give the younger generations a try.
Thanks for watching, folks. If you'd like to support us, and we'd really appreciate it if you did, go over to lotus.com, sign up for only £5 a month, and watch Bo's incredibly detailed series on the life of Julius Caesar. In this one, part 10, he's discussing what happens when Caesar goes to Britain. Like I said, part 10. This is how deep we end up getting into these subjects. And, of course, go over to X, formerly Twitter, and follow us at lotusseaters_com.